guys, my name is Priscilla Elias and today I'll talk about 9 Lightroom tips you should know. Stick up to the end of this video because whether you're new to the software or not, there might be a couple of tips and tricks you haven't heard about before, as, at least considering what happens to me, every now and then I learn a new silly but life-changing trick here and there from a YouTube creator or a fellow photographer. Right after the intro! Most of the tips I'm about to talk about here are things I use on a daily basis and that are amazingly important in my workflow, making things faster and easier for me when editing my photos in Lightroom. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start this. My first tip is rate your images. You can rate your images both when you're in library mode or in develop mode, and it is something very easy to do that is a life changer when it comes to selecting the best photos you have from a specific shoot. I usually make 2 selections, especially when I'm working on images to be sent to my clients. The first selection is the 5 stars one. I hardly ever delete photos from a session for 2 main reasons. 1, it is faster to rate images than it is to delete them. 2, keeping all of them helps me to play safe in case the client feels that they don't have a specific image they would like that you might end up having with you in the middle of the unrated photos. So to add a 5 stars rating to your image, you will just click over the image you want to rate and press 5 on your keyboard, or you can manually come over here and press over the 5-star button. If you want to deselect it, just press 5 on your keyboard again. You can also rate it as 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars if you wish by pressing either 1, 2, 3, or 4 on your keyboard also. I usually use the 5-star rating to select all the images I want to send my client in the contact sheet. And here I usually only exclude the ones that are blurry, that are technically messed up, or where the client doesn't look good at all. For example, if they have their eyes closed or have a weird face when talking. So it is a very basic selection I make so that I won't send any real bad photos for my clients to choose from. Also, when I shoot weddings or events, where I usually don't send contact sheets to my clients and instead I myself make the whole selection, I still use the 5-star rating to make my first overall selection. That way I filter the usable images and I have an idea of how many actually good photos I have in hand. So for example, let's say I took 3,000 photos and I have 2,000 good ones. Then I already have a good idea of how much I still need to cut out in order to get to the number of photos hired in the package they chose. And that's when I go to my second selection, the color rating. If you press from 6 to 9 on your keyboard when having a specific image selected either on your library or your develop mode in Lightroom, you will be able to rate your images with a specific color. And the great thing about this is it will not delete your star selection. So you will have both the color and the star selection at the same time. When I have photo packages where I send my clients the contact sheets for them to choose from, then they send me the list of photos that they'd like to have and I will mark the chosen photos as yellow or green. So now when I come to filter here on the right corner, if I click 5 stars, I will load only the 5-star selection I did earlier, and if I press over the yellow or the green filter here, I will only find the images that are also rated as yellow or green. So it's easier for me to keep track of the images chosen to be edited. And of course, when I work with weddings or events, then the second selection will allow me to make a smaller and more accurate selection of the best photos to be edited. Sometimes for weddings and events, I even do a third selection. So I have the star one, then I do the first color rating, and if I still have many photos, I switch my photos rated as, for example, yellow to green, and then I can narrow down even more to get the best storytelling photos as possible to send to my clients. Tip number 2 is the before and after shortcut. If you press the slash key, you can switch between the before and after edited versions of your photo, or you can also press Y to show your edited version next to the original one. This allows you to easily see the edits you've made so far. I use this shortcut all the times as it helps me to kind of refresh my brain to see what's better or what's worst after I make a couple of changes to my photo. Tip number 3, lights out. I also love this shortcut, especially after I edited all of the photos from a session and I want to see all of them one after another without distractions. Just hit L on your keyboard and the entire workspace will look darker with the exception of the image you're working on. Press L again and the whole workspace, except for the image, will go completely black. You can also press F to see your photo in full screen mode. This is definitely one of my favorites. Tip number 4, create virtual copies. Sometimes you might want to show your client 2 different edited versions of a unique image. Or maybe you simply want to try a second version of the editing without changing the first one you did. This is a way you can do it in Lightroom without duplicating your image. Just right-click over the photo you want to create a second version for, go to Create Virtual Copy, done. Here they are. Now you have a new virtual version of your file to which you can make all of the new adjustments you want, and later, after you're done, you can choose to export both of them to send them to your client, or simply compare your edits and decide which one you want to export as your final image. Tip number 5, copy and paste. This one can be a little obvious for most of you, but it is crucial for anyone who wants to be faster and more productive when working with Lightroom. For that reason, I decided not to leave it out of this video. So let's say you have a photo session where you have a couple of photos that are similar to each other in terms of light and color. What you can do is you go to develop mode, edit one of the photos from this folder until you think it looks good, and hit Command C if you're using a MacBook or Ctrl C if you're using a PC. A copy settings window will open with all of the adjustments you just made to your first photos. You choose if you want to replicate all of the settings to your next photos or if you'd like to exclude any of the changes you made by selecting or deselecting the ones you choose. Hit OK, and then go to the photo you want to replicate your edit into and hit Command V or Ctrl V. Then, if you want, you can adjust small details that you might think that apply to this specific image, and done. You have this image ready with just a click of a button, or in case you need some small adjustments, in a matter of seconds. You can do the exact same thing with each and every image you want to apply the settings to. This will definitely speed up your editing process in Lightroom. Tip number 6, use the hotkey Alt or Option. The Alt key for Windows users and the Option key for Mac users are very useful in Lightroom. They can be used with almost any feature to bring up an alternative view. For example, if you hold Alt or Option when you adjust the exposure, you will be able to see which parts of the photos are clipping. So if you're losing details in highlighted or shadowed areas, you will be able to see it when holding the Alt or Option key. I use this a lot when I add sharpness to my photos. So I add up a little bit of sharpness here just to activate the viewing, and after that I hold Option and slide the masking slider to select and see which areas of the image I'm affecting with the sharpness tool. Very useful. Tip number 7, double click to reset. This is another very simple but very useful shortcut I use all the time. Let's say I edited the exposure of my photo, but I want to reset it. I can simply double click over the exposure slider and it will go back to 0. This will work with any adjustment slider you use in Lightroom. Tip number 8, correct skin or other details using default brush presets. Soften skin, whiten teeth, enhance eyes, etc. If you're shooting a model and you'd like to edit their skin You don't need to open the photo in Photoshop to do so. You can simply use the built-in brush presets in Lightroom to do this. The Soften Skin brush preset softens the skin of your subject, and the Teeth Whitening preset will obviously help whiten their teeth, for example. You can weaken or increase these effects by adjusting the adjustment sliders after you make your selection. Also, you can download some of these brush presets if the ones you find in Lightroom are not enough for you. I use the Luxe brushes a lot, and I absolutely love them for adjustments to specific areas of the photos. The main features I use are the Dodge and Burn, Subject Enhancement, and Skin Softener. But every other time I find use to many of them depending on the image I'm working on. And finally, tip number 9. This one might be useful mainly to the ones of you who are starting out and still struggle a little with doing your edits. It's the auto tone feature. In case you're not sure of what to do with your photo, auto tone can be a good starting point for your editing. In develop mode, just go to tone over here, and here on the right you will find this auto button. Click over it and boom! Lightroom automatically did some basic adjustments to your photo according to what it thought was the best for this specific image. This is the before and the after auto tone. Not a bad start, huh? If one or more of these tips helped you guys, please help me back real quick by simply hitting the like and the subscribe button. I will really appreciate if you do that. If you haven't written down these shortcuts and tips, go over this video again and take some notes. I guarantee that after you memorize them, you will use each and every one of these tips a whole lot. And I also guarantee you will end up being much more productive and effective on your edits in Lightroom. Please let me know how you like this video in the comments below, guys. I love to hear your thoughts, as you really help me to know what is actually being useful and helpful to you. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching me, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao!